Hi, this is the third video on the Vampire, and I'll just catch up with what I've done so far since the last video. I've built the wings. Let me move that piece of this. I'm going to get distracted. This lump of 2x2 is just quite a nice little jig for gluing the wings to the fuselage. Just a bit of balsa super glue to each end, hole in the middle, and I drew some lines on the 2x2 so I could line up ribs and spars, etc. Yeah, let me move that out of the way. I'm not very good at videoing, but you'll have to bear with me. So since last time I built the fuselage, and I hadn't done the hatch. Well, I've done the hatch now, and this was the obvious route to go down. I know, I think it was on Cliff's video on the Vampire. He attached his, I think I'm right, he attached these ribs onto the wing and then offered the whole lot up to the fuselage, if I remember rightly. I glued those onto the fuselage first and then offered the leading edge, trailing edge and the spars up to that former, which I kind of thought was a bit, I don't know, I just thought it'd be sort of a, you've got the wing ribs in place which are all lined up with the fuselage, so I thought that'd be more accurate. Could be wrong, don't know. Anyway, so I hacked out this bit of the fuselage and created this out of the remainder and just made a covering of 1/32 balsa. It's all out of one piece of 1/32, so I had to cut a V. Where's my finger? There it is. I had to cut a V so that I could pull the two sides together at the narrower end. The canopy, I've just made some black canopy sort of hatch lines with masking tape, and I used the black marker pen to make them black. So once that's in, just go in. Come on, stop messing about. There you go. I'll probably have just one magnet somewhere just to keep that in. So that's that. Let me get rid of that, otherwise it's going to fall off. The wings. Yeah, like the fuselage, I did have a bit of an issue with some of the slots, and I put in an extra spar on the bottom, so in line with the top one. The bottom sub spar, which is underneath this one here, I made into probably about an 1/8 by 1/16. I just thought it needed a bit more strength than a single 1/16. And I've shaped, spin around, shape the leading edge, trailing edge, ailerons. Ailerons I've got over there, ready to hinge. And the ducting, or the air intake, I've shaped all those, all that area. And yeah, and obviously we'll have a piece of paper bent round to scoop the air through the vent at the front, or the air intake rather, vent, into the ducted fan area. So that should be about as efficient as you're going to get on this, I think. And also, like Cliff's version, I have some 30-second balsa, which I shall put over that first section, tapered section on the wing, because there's not a lot of I don't know really. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, it's hard to say how strong that joint is, wing to fuselage really. But you can see I've run those leading edges into this bay, and I shall cut that central piece of balsa down and put a small piece of plywood across those two halves, so that might help a little bit. I don't know. And that's it really. I've finished. I sanded the rest of the booms to a nice rounded finish. I didn't know how far down you could go safely, so I've erred on the side of caution. Let's pop those booms in. Oh, hang on. No, before we do that, I wanted to show you something that I've been working on as well. Just bear with me. I've had this plane on the back burner. It's a lot bigger than the Vampire. And it's this thing. This is a Cloud Walker. So it's the Chinese value planes kit, I believe they call it. Let's get rid of that and that. And so this just needs covering now. I've got the radio gear in. Let me tilt that on its side. Got a couple of servos, rudder and elevator. On the kit, it showed this plate which holds the fuel tank on that bottom longer arm down here. So it was way out of line with the carburetor for your engine. So that had to come up. The perspex, got my reflection now, oh dear. The perspex for the windows, I roughed up the inside with some fine sandpaper and sprayed those black. So I thought that looked quite neat. I've got the radio switch there. I've made a cute little battery box which will sit under the wing for the receiver. There's the fuel tank in there, and then they're very vague plans, so you had to work out access to, obviously there's no throttle servo. So what I did, I made this section here. It's a bit difficult doing it one-handed, but oh, here we go. So this section here lifts out, so you've got access to your fuel tank. And if I need to take the fuel tank out, I can literally just cut that bit of that former, which I don't think will impart any loss of strength. And I can take the fuel tank out, I can mess about inside there if I have to, I can replace the servo. All that is epoxy, got a coat of epoxy coating, clear coat. So that will slot back in there. I've got a Merco 35. I've got about half a dozen Merco 35s because I like buying them. And then in the bottom, let me just spin this over without breaking anything. There we go. I've got a little vent for the fuel, and also it pops out. So you've got loads of access. I've got a little magnet on the bottom there that holds that panel in. So that's what I've been working on as well. I've done, where is it? Oh, it's behind me. Just bang around here. This is the tail plane. I've covered the fin and the rudder, so fin's ready to hinge onto the rudder once it's all fitted in. I used Mylar, sorry, not Mylar, what am I on about? This is Doculam hinges, and then that will get filmed over the top. And that for me works fantastically well. So flip upside down, I've got 3 down locating pegs that will locate into the fuselage, into 3 appropriate holes there. And that's it really. So that's something else I've been working on. So the Vampire, let's move that out the way. Cool, blimey. There we go. Right, so back to the vampire. Let's move those over there, away. So the vampire, I think the next job is to get those paper ducting sidewalls in. Work out how I'm going to fit the radio gear in. I think, as I've said before, I kind of wanted to toy with a a central servo for the ailerons. I don't make life easy for myself sometimes. I don't have any 2 gram servos at the moment. I've got a 4 gram. And what I was thinking, must be nuts really. Well, so you could get a nice little 4 gram servo in that area, down, obviously lower down. And you could have a wire. I do like my bell cranks. I mean, you've only got to come out to here, really. So I don't know. I'm not going to rush into this one. It would save a little bit of weight. Yeah, I really don't know. You'll still have the problem, obviously, of putting the elevator servo here. So you'll have to counterbalance that way with something else. I did have a rough weigh-in, and at the moment it's at about 94 grams. Oh no, hang on, that's that's actually with, where is it? I've got, what is this? I'm not sure if it's a 2S or a 3S. So I shouldn't be off more or less 100 grams. So probably by the middle of the week, I'm hoping to have done a bit more to this. And there we go. That's all for now.